I'm going to now be joined live from Qatar by Dr. Ezinne Louis, who is joining us from Qatar to talk about this stress management. Dr. Nnamdi, I want to know, can you tell me the idea behind the Africa Stress Management Summit? What do you seek to achieve by organizing this summit?
The Stress Management Summit Africa was born out of a passion to increase awareness on the dangers of stress overload in Africa, because we come from a part of the world where people tend to embrace stress as a badge of honor. That is why you see two people that are discussing, and one person is like, I had a stressful day. The other person will be like, no, your own is even small. I had a worse day. So people talk about it like a competition, like who had more stress than the other, forgetting that stress may be needed for improve productivity, but on the other hand, stress overload will worsen your health, affect your work, affect your relationship with people, and can even lead to untimely death. So the essence of this summit is to increase the awareness of the dangers of stress across Africa, and also to show you the opportunities, the various options that are there to help you manage your stress. That is why we are hosting this summit, and we are actually hosting the second annual Stress Management Summit Africa. The first one was last year, April 2020, which we still have available on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Doctor. But it appears to me that apart from stress, we have another illness, which is depression. Most of the time, we don't hear people talk about depression in Africa, but it seems to kill. So, based on your research, what is the impact of depression on Africans?
Depression is actually considered a silent killer in Africa because of various factors. Number one, we don't have enough training to help us identify depression in ourselves or in other people. Okay, the knowledge isn't there enough. That is why you see the word depression is being thrown around loosely, to the point that someone that is just sad would say, I'm depressed. So to the point that we don't even know who really needs help or who is just sad. Okay, so that being said, we need more education to help people understand what it means to be depressed. And let me just say it here. Some symptoms of depression that you should know is persistent low mood for at least 2 weeks, feeling of worthlessness, feeling of guilt, feeling that there is no reason to keep living, or you're losing interest in things that usually interest you. You tend to isolate yourself because you don't want to associate with people anymore. You're losing your sleep, you're losing your appetite for food. So these things are some of the symptoms of depression you should be aware of. So when you notice somebody that is like this, somebody that used to love certain things and all of a sudden they don't anymore, so that means the person may need help. So I was talking about factors. One, I talked about poor knowledge amongst people. Now, secondly, not all of us have the listening culture. In fact, most people, or rather everybody, have their own situations, to the point that if you're telling somebody your problem, the person is listening to you so that you can hurry up so that they can tell you their own problem. So that's where you're not even getting help. Okay, but if we can imbibe the listening culture to understanding what people are actually insinuating, are they silently screaming for help? Because there are times that somebody may be saying one thing, but their behavior or their non-verbal communication is actually saying another thing. So ability to understand this will go a long way in helping us. And then thirdly, thirdly, the problem with getting help may be an issue. Not all of us know where to get help when we are depressed. Most people don't know across Africa. But the good news is that mental health awareness is on the increase, and I'm so happy for that. And it's been on the increase in Africa. And now the fourth challenge here is that when people hear about mental health, they usually associate it with somebody being really psychotic, that somebody being mad. Unfortunately, that's not the case. That is why people that are depressed or people that have any mental health issue find it difficult to own up because of fear of being stigmatized. Okay, so when you notice all of this, you find out that so many people are dying silently in depression, because severe depression is a risk factor for suicide. Okay, apart from that, it can make you to functions suboptimally because you've lost interest in things of life. So your work will be affected, relationship with people will be affected. In general, your quality of life will be affected. Okay, so that being said, depression is a serious problem in Africa and also a silent killer that needs to be tackled as urgently as possible.
Dr. Nnamdi, where are some of the areas in Africa, in terms of zones, where the problem of depression and stress seems to be more serious? Can you give us an idea about some of the zones in Africa where the problem of depression seems to be more serious, so that we can be able to look into that?
Talking about zones where stress seems to be more compared to others, I wouldn't want to categorize stress according to the severity of stress according to zones, because stress is individualized. This is what I mean. If two people are working in the same company, they are facing the same, working in the same department, working under the same boss, facing the same level of workload, I can tell you that one person may be complaining that the workload is much compared to the other person. Okay, this is not to undermine the other person's hard work, but this is to make you understand that stress is individualized, in the sense that we experience stress, or whatever we call stress, is different, individual per individual, or individual by individual. Okay, so what we call stress, or how we perceive stress, or how we perceive situations, is different across individuals, because this is affected by several factors: your genetic makeup, your environment, your upbringing, whether you have a pre-existing health condition, the kind of support system you have, how much self-aware you have. So all these can contribute to how somebody responds to stress compared to the other person. So when we're talking about zone, it would be unfair to say, okay, people in this zone experience stress more, whereas you also find people in that zone that don't even understand what you're saying, because they are self-sufficient, they are self-aware enough, they know how to manage their stress, and then you undermine what the other people are experiencing because you feel that whatever they are experiencing is minimal. Okay, so that being said, I would like to say it here that when somebody tells you that the situation they are going through is terrible for them, don't be quick to undermine it just because you are able to cope better with similar situation. For instance, let me say a woman that has given birth and just gave birth to the first child, and because you've given birth to 5 children and you're coping very well, this woman with one child just now complained of being stressed, and then you now tell her you only have one child, you shouldn't be complaining. No, you don't do that. You don't undermine what people are experiencing because you are able to cope better, because we have different ways of coping with situations. And like I mentioned earlier, there are several factors that affect, or rather that influence, how we perceive situations. Okay, so that being said, I wouldn't categorize because you feel that whatever they are experiencing is minimal. Okay, so that being said, I would like to say it here that when somebody tells you that the situation they are going through is terrible for them, don't be quick to undermine it just because you are able to cope better with similar situation. For instance, let me say a woman that has given birth and just gave birth to the first child, and because you've given birth to 5 children and you're coping very well, this woman with one child just now complained of being stressed, and then you now tell her you only have one child, you shouldn't be complaining. No, you don't do that. You don't undermine what people are experiencing because you are able to cope better, because we have different ways of coping with situations. And like I mentioned earlier, there are several factors that affect, or rather that influence, how we perceive situations. Okay, so that being said, I wouldn't categorize the severity of stress according to zones because it is highly individualized.
Dr. Nnamdi, before you leave us, you cannot leave us without giving us some tips on how we can solve these issues related to stress and depression at a time when we are struggling with wars, we are struggling with hunger, we are struggling with COVID-19. What are some of the tips to handle stress, especially for Africans?
Even if COVID-19 situation is solved, your own source of stress is not solved because you don't have a job yet. Okay, so that being said, first of all, we need to be self-aware enough to understand the source of our stress so that you will be able to tackle what is peculiar to us. And then I'm going to teach you something. I'm going to tell you something for those listening to me. When you're stressed, two things are involved. Number one, there is a huge demand in front of you or a perceived threat. And then the second one is that you feel you don't have enough resources to tackle that huge demand or the perceived threat. Okay, so when you're stressed, what is going on? Does it mean you have to that you have to increase your resources? Like if it's a situation of you don't have enough money, does it mean you have to get more money to improve your resources? Or if it's a situation of you have so much workload, do you need to reduce the workload, giving you a huge demand? So that being said, just think about it this way. Do I need to improve my resources to help me cope better? The rest, you're not getting any relief at any time of the day. The hormones will keep being elevated. Before you know it, it will start affecting every organ in your body. That is when you hear about somebody that is young having high blood pressure, somebody that is young having diabetes, somebody that is young having heart problems, somebody that is young having stroke. Okay, because stress would worsen these situations. Okay, so as much as possible, find something each day that makes you feel good, that makes you laugh, that makes you relieve the tension. Even if it's listening to music, watching comedy shows, going for walks, investing in your hobby, taking care of yourself, anything it is, just invest in it each day to bring down the raging stress hormones so that you can be pumped for the next day's challenge, because each day comes with its own problems. Each day comes with its own challenge. So you're going to be intentional. You're going to be mindful enough to take care of yourself per day so that you can feel better and do better for the sake of yourself, your family, the loved ones around you, and everyone around you. So that is our goal, to increase awareness on the dangers of stress overload and also to give you options on how to manage them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ezinne Nnamdi-Louis, a Nigerian medical doctor and stress management expert based in Qatar. Thank you so much for your tips, and I just want to get a 1-minute reaction from my panelists here, and then we'll round up the show. Reaction from you after listening to Dr. Nnamdi. I think this is a very important topic. We cannot spend time talking about Thomas Sankara when people are dying of depression and dying of stress. At the time when people don't even have food to eat, how would they carry on with their Pan-African vision if they are depressed or in stress? Your reaction, Labaran?
It was a very, very laudable initiative, because I actually followed it so deeply, and Africa as a continent is synonymous to stress, because whatever is in Africa stresses us up. From the leaders, the economy, everything
is stressful.
This conference, very important. Yeah, it's very important.
Madam Giselle Itamben?
I would like to say that I agree that there is a lot of sources of stress. And what I want to say here is about one thing that she said, that when in Africa you said that this is happening to you, the other person just
waves it.
Yes, but I think it's a way to continue the conversation, to tell you that, you are not the only person. And when somebody comes with a huge problem, it's a way, when you are telling her that, just for one child, you are not coping, I had 4, it's a way to help the person, to cool down, manage his own the stress. So, and one thing that I want to add is that Thomas Sankara used to get all the offices, all his colleagues doing sports. So that was his own way to, to get people to manage their stress. So.
Thank you, Madam Giselle. Ivobo, you have 1 minute.
I read the book titled The Mirror by Walter Trobish, where a young girl moved into the office and she was stressful and wanted to seek the counsel of Trubbish, and he sent her away. And the following day, to summarize, he was driving and he saw the girl in the gutter dead. So that reflected that he said, if I would have listened to that girl. It is good for us to give listening ears when somebody wants to present something to you, especially when the person is stressed up or when the person is disturbed. It is good to listen to the person. And then we also need to create time for relaxation and entertainment. Most of the time they say too much work without play makes Jack a dull boy. So we need to create time for relaxation. And last, again, it is advisable to take one thing at a time. You cannot do everything. Do what you can do, and what you cannot do, leave it. You cannot, even if you do what, you cannot be able to do everything, and you cannot be able to solve all your problems at the time. There are sometimes some problems get a solution by themselves.
Thank you so much, Ivo Bo. I take some last messages. Wow, at the time when I'm closing the program, messages are pouring in. Let me take the messages to encourage them so that they can be sent from time to time. Thanks. I want